It's really, really, really excellent that we've got so many people here. And for me, digital is what I do for a living here at PwC. We're building a huge digital business. A number of people have already asked me, are we recruiting? Yep, we're recruiting. Lots of people. The things that we've noticed is businesses need to become more innovative, need to execute change faster, need to become really good at figuring out better ways of delivering client value with new, modern technologies, emerging technologies that can really affect and make a difference. And for me, I think that really is going to challenge big business. And I think what we're going to see over the next 10 years is an age of incredible disruption. And actually, it's the opportunity for startups, digital natives to really come in and show big business, how things could be really done differently. I think it's really exciting. Anyway, welcome this evening. Hope you have a great time, and thank you for coming, and it's a pleasure to have you here.
It only really remains just to say a huge thank you for PwC for not only supporting us as a small business, also kind of giving you guys this huge opportunity to fill this gigantic space in such a great location. It also needs to be said, a huge thank you to Penguin Books. Thank you so much for bringing such an incredible, inspirational human to us. So please, a huge round of applause for Penguin. Just for the record, my name is Benjamin Southworth. I'm very fortunately, to be one of the co-founders of the Three Beards. I normally start with some sort of story relating to the author or some sort of aspect of how the author has impacted me or affected me. And I found that a little bit tricky because I remember when my father brought home the Macintosh 2CI, which is weirdly one of your favourite machines, and he brought that home, and I was just blown away, having run BBC Micro's Bs for so long, and these touch screens and this fantastic graphical user interface, and I just was kind of blown away by the potential of computers, and luckily enough managed to fail every exam I ever sat and ended up becoming an IT monkey because at the time we weren't thought of as being much use, and become a programmer, and now I'm here interviewing a great human. And as I was thinking about what it was I was gonna say as I went through reading all of Guy's books, of which there are 13 of Guy's books, so it was a pretty epic session for me. I'd like to think I remembered almost 2% of what I read.
It's more than me.
I was struck by this really fantastic story, and I can't quite work out whether or not it was the fact I was commuting back to Reading late at night, tired after several beers, or I was feeling particularly emotional. But for some reason, this story, which Guy's not here to talk about this book, but is those of you who don't know it, I recommend immensely. Enchantment, which is about creating fascination and excitement and interest in your company. And I think for many of us who are in startups or scale-ups, it's a really crucial point, and one of my great mentors does a huge amount on this point, and getting people excited in your company is really, really crucial. And the Beards have done this completely accidentally by calling ourselves Three Beards and just kind of giving everyone free beer and accidentally enchanting people with free beer. And this story just really sort of, I don't know what it was, but it really sort of brought a tear to my eye. And I'd like to just read it out for you. And in each of the books here, and I'm breaking the spine a bit, which is awful, and apologise. In each of these chapters, there's a kind of personal story, and it's about kind of what a company means to an individual, and what that company then can talk about externally. And for some reason, this really hit home to me, and I'd like to just read it out. My personal story by Mike Stevens. Mike Stevens is a marketing consultant from Fargo, North Dakota, who helps printers improve their business. In his personal story, he explains how his dad rescued him from a lack of preparation when starting a business, and how they built an enchanting business together. His lesson: if all your preparations fail or you don't do any, there's always your family. He starts like this. A few days after I bought my little print shop in 1983, I realized I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I had a degree in business, but I quickly discovered my diploma was pretty much worthless in this new endeavour. On the second day we were open, a big snow blizzard hit our city, Fargo, North Dakota, and basically shut everything down. I didn't have any extra cash and needed to be open because I needed the daily sales to make my first payroll in a few days. Somehow I managed to get to work thinking I'd complete a few of the unfinished jobs in progress so I could invoice them for cash, but I quickly realised I didn't know how to operate a single piece of equipment. The joy and excitement of owning a new business was fading fast. It felt hopeless. I did the only thing I could think of. I called my dad. He was a retired auto worker living in Florida. I said, "Dad, I'm lost. I don't know what to do or where to turn." Without even pausing, he said, "Don't worry. He'd be here in 48 hours. My dad got in his car and drove 1,500 miles, almost non-stop, until he got to Fargo. When he arrived, the first thing he did was give me a hug and put his arm around my shoulder. He'd never done that before. I'll never forget him looking me in the eyes and saying, "It's going to be okay, Mike. We'll get through this together, one problem at a time." The next morning when I got to work at 5 a.m, my dad was already there. He'd organised and cleaned things up and had breakfast waiting for me. I felt my anxieties begin to melt away. Soon, things did get better. Everyone loved my dad, especially customers. He became my front counter person, my production manager, my delivery driver, and my inspiration. Sometimes it seemed like he did all the hard work and got none of the credit. But he wanted it that way. He became my secret weapon, and he ended up staying for 23 years. During those 23 years, we worked together, we laughed together, and we learned the printing business together. In the end, my little business became a big success and won many printing industry awards. But I'll never forget that my success was built on the shoulders of a loving dad who didn't want to see his son fail. He was always there for me, no matter what happened. I got my degree from the university, but it was my auto worker dad who taught me how to run a business. He finally retired at the age of 77. He died unexpectedly 16 days later at our family's little lake home that he was visiting on his way back to Florida. In many ways, I'm not surprised. He probably planned it that way. After all, his job was finally complete. I read that because I think anyone who puts a story like that into a business book understands something truly spiritually and emotionally valuable. And I hope in the next hour that we can talk in detail about that.
Jeez.
Please welcome
Precious.
Guy Kawaski.
I thought we were going to talk about how to get more followers.
Yeah, I know you did. I know. Sorry, buddy. It doesn't work like that here. So, Guy.
I'm going to dig myself out of that hole now.
Oh, you set yourself up. You wrote this. So, let's start with your background, Guy. Let's start about you're Hawaiian, correctly?
Yeah. How far do you want to go back?
All the way back. Look, we're going to go all the way back and all the way forward.
Just after they invented electricity, I was born. I'm from Honolulu, Hawaii. I was born in 1954, and I lived in a lower middle class family, not dysfunctional. I wasn't abused, beaten, orphaned, anything like that. I didn't have a paper route when I was 8. I did normal stuff, kill frogs and firecrackers, nothing pathological, but nothing, I can't paint the picture of awesomeness back then. And I went to a school in Hawaii, a private school. There are 2 primary private schools in Hawaii. One is the one that Barack Obama went to, and the other one is mine. And he couldn't get into mine. That's why he went to the other one. And after that high school experience, I went to Stanford. I have an undergraduate degree from Stanford. And then, believe it or not, I went to law school because back then, and this is the mid-70s, if you were Asian American, your parents wanted you to be either a doctor, a lawyer, or a dentist. And I just did not want to stick my hand in people's bodies.
Lawyers don't do that.
Well, I'm coming to that. Well, so they stick their hands in people's affairs, which is different. And I went to law school for a grand total of 2 weeks and quit because I just couldn't stand it. First time in my life I quit anything.
How did that feel?
Well, it was a big deal. Asian American quitting something, that's like, you're supposed to be like taking violin lessons at 2, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I've seen the Reddit memes about,
all that.
Korean
so I for sure I thought I was going to get disowned. And I called on my father. I said, I just hate law school. I'm going to quit. And he said, okay, as long as you make something of your life by the time you're 25 or 26. And my reaction was, why didn't you just tell me that before? Why'd you tell me to go to law school then if you don't care? So anyway, after that I went and got an MBA at UCLA. And while I was in the MBA program at UCLA had a 4-day-a-week program. So on the 5th day, basically nothing to do. So I started working for this jewelry manufacturer in downtown LA. So I literally counted diamonds.
And why was it just the first job that came?
Yeah, it was either that or make cappuccinos. So I counted diamonds. And after I graduated, when all my friends were going to PwC and Arthur Andersen and McKinsey and Goldman Sachs, I went to this unheard of jewelry company. I stayed there for 5 years, sales and marketing. It was one of the best decisions of my life in hindsight because I learned how to sell. Because jewelry business is a tough business. And that sales experience has just provided a foundation for the rest of my life. So now I've gotten an MBA and I am in this jewelry business, and then I saw the computer world, and the computer just removed the scales from my eyes.
And how did you come to sort of get in contact with computers? Because it's quite an unusual story.
Well, I had a classmate at Stanford who bought an Apple I and Apple II, and he just turned me on to computers. I just loved computers, and to use a word processor the first time or a database first time, it's a religious experience. Coming from Selectric typewriter, you don't even know what a typewriter is. None of you have even seen a typewriter, right? So that was a religious experience. And this guy, Mike Boych, who worked at Apple, after a couple of rounds of job possibilities, got me into Apple. So I got into Apple because I loved computers. And basically, it was nepotism.
And how big was the company? How big was Apple then?
Well, my badge number, funny, I can remember my badge number from 1983, but I cannot remember people I met 10 minutes ago. My badge number...
I'm Ben, don't worry, it's fine.
Yeah. Ben? That's the killer app for Google Glass. But anyway, so my badge number was 5,041.
Okay.
So I was the 5,041st employee of Apple. My first job at Apple was a software evangelist, so it was my job to convince people to write software for a computer that at the time had 0 installed base, and 128K of RAM, 400K floppy drive, basically no development tools, very little documentation. This is a piece of crap, but it was a revolutionary piece of crap, man. And so that was my job, and I did that until I got the bug to be an entrepreneur. So I left to start a Macintosh software company. After that, I became a writer and a speaker, and eventually I returned to Apple in 1995, because in 1995, believe it or not, Apple was supposed to die. Many people thought it was for sure going to die, so that's when I went back. And I served as chief evangelist of Apple, and my job there was to preserve the Macintosh cult. I stayed there at that job for about 2 years. Steve came back, I left. And the rest is history. That Apple's become the most valuable company in the world without me. I quit Apple twice. Not that many people can say that. Had I not quit Apple twice, I would not be here. I mean, I don't mean I would have died. I mean, I would have. I would not be here because I would be so freaking rich and insufferable. I would not lower myself to this level here. No.
I like this guy.
Yeah.
I like this guy.
Yeah,
it's got like a British humor.
I'd have my people talking for you. Or my PA's PA. And so after that, I started a company called Garage.com, which is a boutique investment bank.
And how did you get into that? I mean, obviously you've gone through this Apple process. You know about computers.
Yeah,
boutique investment banking.
The guy who was the publisher of Forbes, Rich Carlgard, had this great idea to do a company, believe it or not, called Boom Cities. And so this is the height of the dot-com phenomena. And we thought, so all of these booming cities needed kind of a directory of who are the best venture capitalists, who are the best investment bankers, who are the best auditors, who are the best PR firms. So we should create a website for each booming city.
Okay.
And then we went in to see this lawyer who was one of our friends, and he said, instead of doing that, which is kind of a advertising eyeball play, you should focus on one aspect of booming cities, which is making a market between venture capitalists and investors and angel investors and entrepreneurs, because there's lots of entrepreneurs and there's lots of investors, but there's nothing putting the two wings of the butterfly together. So you should be the body of the butterfly and sort of collect 7% off the top. I thought that was a great idea. So that's how Boom Cities became Garage.com. And I did that, and then...
And what happened to that? You sort of tailed off there. It was a great story.
Well, let's just say that when you have a boutique investment bank whose business model is 7% of the money you raised, and you go through the dot-com collapse, 7% of zero is zero. And so it was no longer a viable model. And so subsequent to that, I've been a writer and a speaker, and today, or not today, but for the past year or so, I've been chief evangelist of a company out of Australia called Canva. And Canva is in the online graphics design business, so it empowers people. I'm into empowerment and democratization. So I work for Apple that empowered people with computers, democratized computers. And I think Google democratized information and eBay democratized commerce. And now Canva is democratizing design. In the time it takes to boot Photoshop, we can finish a graphic for you. Okay, so I think it has like really wide appeal.
Okay, and we'll give you a demo of that, because you're the master evangelist, and there's very few other people I'd let demo.
Well, maybe they're sold already. How many of you are to go home and try Canva? Okay, so we don't need to do a demo.
Yeah, is that enough for you? Are you happy with that?
Well, you should. I learned something. You never sell past the close.
That's a good. I love that point, actually.
Because like right now, you're thinking, well, Canva must be really interesting. You're going to go home and try it. And what if I do a demo and you don't like it? I lost you. So I want you to go home and try. I mean, I don't think these kind of things should be a sales pitch. Good. I mean. Okay. So can I tell you another story?
No, I'm going to ask you a question.
I'm full of stuff. So my story is better than your question.
You don't know that. So the question is, it felt like when I especially read Enchantment and bits of social media and the art of the start. Oh, I've been told to say that you're rewriting Art of the Start.
I am rewriting Art of the Start because Art of the Start is 10 years old. And that was before, believe it or not, crowdfunding, crowdsourcing, social media. And back then you had to write a business plan. I mean, lots of things have changed in 10 years. So I need to redo that book. I redid the book from scratch. It's funny, my publisher, Penguin, same publisher of Art of Social Media, they told me to revise the book. And I said, okay. And I said, well, send me the Word file, that version 1 is. And they sent it to me and they said, well, just turn on track changes. Because if you turn on track changes, we can just approve the few changes you made. I literally laughed at them. I said, by the time you get this manuscript, there will not be one sentence that has not been changed. And so you will just have to accept all. And so just man up and just figure out you're going to have to hire a copy editor and do it all over again from scratch. Because it's like track changes and, approving them one at a time is not going to fly in Microsoft Word. This book is almost totally rewritten. It's kind of, for those of you who are engineers, you know how you say, well, we're just going to do a 0.01 rev, fix a few bugs, add a few refinements, and then you go in there and you say, wow, this whole architecture is shit. I should just redo it. And it's faster to redo it. That's what I did, basically.
And when can we expect that?
March 3rd.
March 3rd.
March
Okay.
3rd.
Awesome. So that's that bit done. So I want to talk about, I get this real sense, both about how you talk about your family, certainly in Enchantment, far more than some of the other books, that there is this, belief is maybe too strong a word, but there is something about you, I think the fact that you word evangelism, the fact you word enchantment, charm, grace throughout your things. That there is a sort of perhaps perhaps a projection, but feels like there's a spirituality to you. That you seem to have this very innate belief in humans.
That's an Asian thing. I am fundamentally a very optimistic person. I truly do believe that the world should be a meritocracy. I believe that the world should be an even playing field so that everybody has the equal opportunity to tip the field towards them. Okay, I'm not saying everybody should be even forever. I believe in a meritocracy, which is different. I don't believe in anarchy. So I'm fundamentally a very optimistic person. I always see things as half full. And I really, I think people need some kind of mission in their life. So my mission, what I want on my gravestone is that I empowered people. I empowered people with my writing, my speaking, my advising. I want to empower people so that, we're going to go deep into my psyche now. So at the end of my life, when I get up to that top of the escalator, and there's St. Peter, and he says, so Guy, what have you done? Why should I let you in? Not that I'm saying religion works like this, because, but let's just say, what if it does? Because we're talking eternity here. It's not something you should take a chance with. So I realize that, you can't earn your way into heaven, or there is a body of thought that says you accept Christ and you get in. It's not because you earned it and you were a good person. But just in case, let's be conservative. I want to say that, I did things that made the world a better place. And in my case, I helped people build great stuff that made the world a better place.
And where does that come from?
Where does it come from? Well, I came up I was brought up in a lower middle class family, so I'm like hardly aristocracy. My father always taught me this concept of noblesse obligée, that, if you're fortunate, you have a moral obligation. So I believe I have a moral obligation. Now, every one of you is going to come up to me after that and say, well, will you read my pitch and give me advice because you have a moral obligation? Actually, I figured a way to answer that question. So I have the most... I'll tell you that right now, so just in case, that's entering your mind, okay, Guy, Mr. Noblesse Obligé. So I get asked every day, to review business plans. Just like, Guy, can you just spend a couple hours reviewing my business plan? Because, you got nothing better to do. Right. So I figured out a way. So my older son, is a hockey player, and he plays for UC Berkeley ice hockey team. And that's a club sport, so it's not paid for by the university. They depend on donations. So if you want me to review your business plan or your PowerPoint, I will do it. But you have to donate $500 to that.
Love it.
Perfect. That club. And you see, I don't want to say you have to pay me $500. Because I don't want people going around saying, that asshole Guy Kawasaki, he thinks his advice is so valuable that I have to pay him $500. I want people to say, that asshole Guy Kawasaki, he's making me donate $500 to a not-for-profit. Maybe I'm the asshole, right? So I want you to do that. I want you to donate for a cause that I love, and in exchange, I will review your business plan. Now, you'd be amazed, I tell this to everybody who wants me to review the business plan, and very few people take me up on it. And so I say to myself, so you wanted me to spend 2 hours reviewing your business plan, but my 2 hours of time was not worth $500. Is that what you're telling me? Because that's how I'm parsing this equation. And so it is a very good way to, I think, ethically, morally,
triage out the bullshitters.
Yeah, to separate who's serious. Because I think that 2 hours of my time advising your business plan is worth $500. Especially when it's not coming to me, it's going to this thing. So most people turn it down, but let's just say that enough people take me up on it so that the University of California at Berkeley ice hockey team is very well funded.
And you've seen a lot of business plans.
And it just gives me great pleasure to say, everybody's a winner, right? So theoretically, this entrepreneur got great advice. I get the satisfaction of knowing that I helped an entrepreneur and this club team. And this club team has, $500 more to buy beer when they play hockey. I mean, everybody's a winner. I mean, it's like, life is not a zero-sum game.
Apart from doing the right thing by everyone, not everyone, the Three Beards especially has, and amongst others, we've worked really hard to cultivate what we hope is a kind of community in London that is the right thing for the right reasons
Yeah.
for as many people as possible. We really believe that.
Yeah,
We,
I love that.
you know, and not everybody has that, right? Like you have it, you know, and I know that Vicky and Kevin have it immensely. How does one like evangelize the idea of evangelism for evangelism's sake? Does that make any sense at all?
Yeah,
Maybe
no,
that-
it absolutely makes sense. First of all, it's a very difficult thing. I don't think you should go around trying to change people's values. Okay, I don't think you should lean on people and try to change their values. I think the best case is you set an example. So you set an example, and people either embrace your example or they don't embrace your example. But I don't. Well, actually, I did beat people up until they used the Macintosh, I must say. But I think you set an example. That is the most efficient case that people can do.
I want to go back to the Apple story, because I
Yeah.
mean, you were really, I think, a huge part of creating that. And as someone who was a kind of a really passionate enthusiast and was one of the idiots who was trying to badger my parents to invest in Apple in 1995 when it was doomed, and I wished we had, because we'd be millionaires, but we didn't. You know.
And you wouldn't be here.
Yeah, it would have, back then, you know.
It would have been
anyway,
two,
you know.
It would have been two beards.
I still hate them. So, talk to me about going into Apple in the early days, because you know this is a time where it's
so-
not, you know, this is pre-social media, right? So like,
Yeah.
it's really easy for us to kind of read, you know, the art of social media and sit on Twitter and be interesting, and you make some fantastically, you know, great points about how to do it. But you were doing this kind of, you know, in a sort of knocking on door manner. I mean, you were having to, you know, there was, I mean, what was there? I mean,
Rubbing sticks together, yeah.
Yeah, right.
So I worked for Apple the first time from 83 to 87. It was absolutely fantastic. It was like being paid to go to Disneyland every day, because we were on a mission from God, i.e. Steve Jobs. And we were going to change the world. We were convinced we were going to change the world. We were drinking the Kool-Aid. We were snorting the Kool-Aid. We were injecting the Kool-Aid. We thought that we were going to establish a new personal computer standard called Macintosh, and we were going to prevent the end of the world in a George Orwellian 1984 sense, domination by IBM. And so we were on this mission. And
Do you think that people really understand to this day quite how kind of revolutionary it was? Because I always, when I look back at it, I feel like people don't really understand quite how shit computers were back then.
Yeah,
You know,
well-
and then what we ended up with is kind of incredible, right?
you know, it's hard to explain to someone who's always used a graphical user interface computer what it was like to not have graphical user interface, that it was just text. And you know, the way you made a diagram was you used X's and O's, and you made it, you know, I mean, that's like a long time ago. And the first time I saw Macintosh, the demo was Mac Paint and Mac Write. And Mac Write was the first time a word processor had multiple fonts, styles for the fonts, integrate text and graphics, WYSIWYG display, WYSIWYG printing. And before, you looked at, you know, 24 by 80 column of plain text. And Mac Paint, which you clicked on a paintbrush and painted, and you clicked on a rectangle and drew out the rectangle with a certain fill pattern, and you made org charts, and it was freaking, I mean, it was like, you know, the clouds parted and the angels started singing. It was a religious experience. And so that's what sold me. I was sold on Macintosh in 5 minutes, man. Like, one thing I learned about evangelism is usually you can tell in the first 5 minutes somebody either gets it or they don't. And if they don't get it in 5 minutes, they never get it. You should just cut your losses and leave. It's really kind of an instant thing. This leads me to, I'll give you some tips. So tip number 1 is called Guy's Golden Touch. And contrary to what I wish it was, Guy's Golden Touch is not whatever I touch turns to gold, because that is not true. Guy's Golden Touch is whatever is gold Guy touches. So this is a way of saying that if you want to be a great evangelist, either create or find a great product to evangelize, because it is so much easier to evangelize something great than it is to evangelize crap. So, you know, don't make it hard on yourself. That's why there's no Windows evangelist. That's an oxymoron. By the way, I have to say that I think the Covent Garden Apple store is the most beautiful store that Apple has.
Isn't it nice? Isn't it? It's a good one.
I love that store. I love your city. I love that store.
Come on, this is an American celebrating London. Big
I have to tell you that. Yeah. Come on. I have to tell you, when I tell this to London natives, they always kind of look at me like I'm nuts. But I love Wagamama. Really? Seriously. Like, there are very few things in life that are good, fast, and cheap, And Wagamama is good, fast, and cheap. And
maybe you should evangelize for them.
Yeah, I should. I flew.
Have you thought about that? Just being like an evangelist for things you just like?
Touch the gold. So this week, I flew in on Sunday, and I went straight to Oslo. But the first thing I did when I landed in Heathrow is I went to the Heathrow Wagamama. And today, at 11 o'clock, I opened up the Wagamama that's across from the Savoy. And tonight, depending on when this ends, I'm going to go again. I'm going to have so I'm going to go eat at Wagamama 3 times, total of 20 pounds, right? Something like that. I love Wagamama. I really truly do love Wagamama. It's one of the few business models I've seen in the UK that could scale. Ooh.
So it's been great talking to Guy. Give him a round. No. I'm going to take it. God, actually, you've distracted me now.
Yeah.
What do you think it is about Wagamama that excites you so much?
It's good, fast, and cheap.
Okay, and that's it? Is that what you're looking for in life? That's don't stir this. That's a very honest question. So what is it? What is it? You just like the food? You just think it tastes good? It's kind of quick. It's
I like
fast?
I like the setting, the communal setting. I like the tables in there. I like the fact that I don't know how the hell they write down the order on your napkin, but they place the order. Like most people write it down and they take the order, right? But they write it on your napkin. How does that work?
It is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
No. Do you think there's cameras above?
Maybe they fly drones over the napkins.
That would be
maybe
drone delivery.
Maybe the NSA is looking at the napkins.
That's probably what it is.
It's kind of impressive how they do the napkin thing. If any of you have ever, we just go all over the map tonight. If any of you ever...
You've not been to one of these before, have you?
If you ever go to India, you go visit the Taj, and Taj Mahal, not the Taj Hotel. Taj Hotel is good too, but go visit all that kind of stuff. But one thing you should not miss, which most people won't take you to, is the Dhobi Ghat. And I don't know if have you been to a Dhobi Ghat? Do you know what it is? Yeah. So,
it's horrible.
Huh?
It's horrible.
What's horrible?
This is good. This is nice. This is debate.
Huh?
I lived in Bombay for 4 years.
Yeah, but aren't you impressed that that they can keep track of all that laundry coming in and send it all back? And there's not like RFID chips in those things, right? And it's like really. I'm sure it's polluting and it's labor exploitation and all that, but it's the pure white color against the dirty river water and all kinds of stuff. You gotta trust me. Just go visit a Dhobi Ghat.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Dhobi Ghat is the outdoor laundry system of India.
Right. Okay.
And so all this laundry comes in,
And they wash it in the Ganges.
and they wash it in the Ganges, and all of it goes back out to the right place, and whites get whiter and colors get brighter, and I don't know how they do that. I'm really.
It seems a little improbable, given
as
the
you can
Ganges.
see, the little things in life impress me. So.
I once went in the Thames.
Who's from
and I
India
came out
in
quite
here?
sort of dirty.
Okay, so have you been to a Dhobi Ghat? Is it not impressive?
It is absolutely impressive. What is impressive is also
The lunch? The lunch thing?
The tiffin people. That's amazing, right?
they don't use RFID anything.
Yeah.
Rate of 99 or 9% accuracy.
And right now, at any intersection in India, you can get my book for 10 cents. Yeah. Because we sold 1 copy to India. Yeah. How's that? So I make $0.015 on that copy.
Well, distribution versus profit sometimes.
Yeah,
It's good.
yeah.
It's good. I'm going to desperately try and claw this back. So, there you are,
a
1980.
guest is only as good as the moderator.
Thank you so much, guys. So you left Apple. Why did you leave Apple?
Which time?
The first time.
Well, the first time, there's two versions of this story. One is that I saw this.
Just the truth will be fine.
Well, there's two versions of the truth. So.
Are you going to stand for president? The other guy did quite well. He went to the other school.
Yeah. It remains to be seen. What were we talking about? I completely forgot.
Why did you leave Apple?
Oh, why did I leave Apple? Yeah, it's such a traumatic experience. I wiped it out of my long-term memory. So there are two reasons. So I was 4 years into an Apple career, and I really thought that Macintosh was a great market. I mean, after all, I was the evangelist. It's like if you met the Pope and the Pope thought that Catholicism wasn't good, you'd be disappointed, right? So I was like the Pope of the Macintosh religion, so I really believed in this religion, so I wanted to go, start a new.
And how much were you and
diocese.
Steve kind of talking? Because obviously, Steve is the god. You're the
can't
chap.
tell you that I was
Did you meet
bosom
him?
buddies with. No, yeah, I met him, but I wasn't bosom buddies with him.
Why not?
He's just not the kind of guy you invite over to watch football at your house. You know what I'm saying? One version of this story was the great attractiveness of the Macintosh market as an entrepreneur. Second version of this story is, so at the time at Apple, if you got to be the director level, which is right underneath vice president, director level is when Apple bought you a car. Okay, and back then, well, I still do. I loved cars, and so this is like one of my life goals to be a director at Apple, so Apple would buy me a car. Okay, so I go into this review, and the person who reviews me, who was chief operating officer of Apple, he says, guy, these small companies love you. These small Macintosh companies, they love you. They're creating innovative games and products. They really love you. But Microsoft can't stand you. Lotus can't stand you. And Ashton Tate can't stand you. They all hate you. And I'm thinking, so far, this is going good because Microsoft just ripped off Apple, so they hate me. So if the enemy of your enemy is your friend, okay, check, right? And then, Ashton Tate was not making Mac software, and Lotus created this piece of crap for Macintosh called Jazz, which was not 1, 2, 3. So I said, wow, I'm like hitting it on all cylinders. The right people like me, and the right people hate me. But then he says, so guy, because it's important for your position that not only the small companies like you, but the big companies like you too, I'm not making you a director. Okay? I was so freaking pissed off. I just, I just could not grasp that. Then
you done sort of 5 years.
Because these three stupid companies didn't like me. He was not going to make me a director and get me a car. So, you're really getting the inside scoop on me, right? You're thinking, how the hell can the guy put that heartwarming story in the book, on the other hand, be so insipid as worrying about cars? I'm a complex person. So I go in and I see my colleague Jean-Louis Gasset.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Jean-Louis. And I
follow him on Twitter, by the way. He's very funny.
I say to Jean-Louis, they didn't give me the promotion. They said it's because these big three companies did not like me. And I said, Jean-Louis, I'm just going to quit. Screw this place. But Jean-Louis says, guy, do not quit yet. Because there's going to be a reorg, which is a monthly affair at Apple. And in that reorg, you're going to be working for me, which is okay because he's much older than I am. And he said, and your next review, I guarantee you will be a director. And he said, and for the rest of your career, it would be better to be able to say director Apple Computer than simply manager Apple Computer. I said, okay, Jean-Louis. Oui. So I stayed 6 more months, and he literally made me director on the, I happen to remember it was April Fool. So he made me director on April 1st.
Did you get a clown car?
Well, I'm coming to that part of the story. So he made me a director. Now I can get a car, but I quit the next day because I wanted to start a company, and because it was like the accomplishment of being a director. It was no longer, it was never really just the car, right? So now I got the directorship, I quit on my own terms, and I went and started a company. Now, so for the longest time, I thought, "Guy, you're so tough and you're so smart. What a bold thing to do." But now, with Apple stock at 700, I'm thinking, "Guy, you're such an idiot. You should just sucked it up, right? Shut up, continue to vest, and you would now be worth $200 million, right? And you could own Wagamama. You wouldn't have to eat it all." So, I don't know why would you come out on a Friday night to hear from somebody who quit Apple twice? It's like not a sign of intelligence to quit Apple twice. If I had stayed either time, I would own Wagamama. It would be Kawamama or something instead.
Thank you so much for chatting to me. I'm going to open it up to the crowd because I think they've got much better, more interesting conversations. Peter is the owner of this fantastic company that we love immensely called Slido, which enables you to register questions if you're somehow too nervous to have them asked, and then I will read them out on your behalf. Ideally, we would live in a world where people weren't so scared, but if you are scared, we can just pick a question. If you want to be anonymous, for example, what is your favourite dish as Wagamama's and why? Is a great question to ask anonymously, I can imagine. So can we give a big round for Peter, because he doesn't charge us for this, and it's a really great system.
In the intro tonight, Guy, Ben, just kind of, you went, I had a BBC and then I had a Mac and it was all wonderful. And then, actually, if you think about where the BBC went, Acorn then developed ARM, and ARM now basically powers most of the devices we use these days. ARM is a British technology.
It's out of Cambridge, right?
Well, I mean, you said scalable was only, with Wagamama, but actually ARM is, fairly there, and it's a British company.
Okay. There's two now.
Yeah. So we got noodles, and we run processors. But the thing I'm interested in, as somebody who's done so much evangelism, how does this country kind of evangelise itself when it comes to technology? Because we actually have these fantastic technologies like ARM, and yet we dismiss them. And the West Coast dismisses them.
Well, first of all,
what do we do?
I'm not your psychiatrist.
Let's just leave it there. Let's just have a demo. I don't know how you can better that answer, really. I think, really. Give it up for Guy Kawasaki.
I'm going to answer this guy.
You can't. There's nothing you can do.
There's nothing I can do? He's beyond help? No, no, seriously. So I think you have to come to the realization that, and it took, a long time for Silicon Valley to come to this realization that it's not enough to make the coolest widget. You have to tell the world that you made the coolest widget. And arguably marketing, I'll draw a parallel with writing. Okay, so many writers believe that the hard part of publishing a book is writing the book. I'll tell you that the hard part of writing a book is not writing the book. It's marketing the book after you write it. And so some people believe, some people have this impression of writing that the way it works is you're at your beach house with the advance that you got on the book. Okay, so you bought a beach house with the advance. And you're sitting there, and it's a sunny day, and you're using a Mont Blanc 18-karat gold nib fountain pen, and you're writing on parchment paper made by chanting Tibetan monks, and all your kids have straight A's, no ADHD, no behavior issues. House is perfectly clean, right? Everybody's happy. And you sit there on your windswept beach house veranda with your 18-karat gold nib Mont Blanc fountain pen on your parchment, and the words flow. They come out of your brain, they go down your shoulder, and they come through your wrist, and just flow in cursive, right? And then you work on this, and then you send this stack of parchment to your editor in New York or London. And your editor turns off his computer, shuts off his phone, opens your package and sits down and reads your cursive manuscript. 2 hours, 3 hours later, your editor emerges from this semi-orgasmic state of reading your manuscript and calls you up and says, I've been an editor for 25 years, and in my 25 years, I've never read a perfect manuscript until today. And we've already talked to Oprah. We've talked to, we've talked to 60 Minutes and Charlie Rose and the people at the people who made Star Wars. They want to buy the option for it already, and we don't know whether we should go with Ellen or Oprah for your first appearance, and Barnes & Noble wants a worldwide exclusive, and they guarantee 1 million copies. And Jeff Bezos is going to get on a plane to, personally introduce this to the Amazon staff for you. And if you think that writing is anything like that, you are on crack. And the hardest part is so, when you're not in an industry, you think that's how it is, right? So I guarantee you there are people who are outside of technology that think, so you have this charismatic leader and you sit down and you have this vision for the future of ARM chips, or you have a vision of this future of, why don't we make it so that people can snap a picture and it disappears after 6 seconds, or, they want to shoot a 6-second video and add it, or send a 140-character text message, or they want to show themselves drunk on a weekend, and that they have this vision, and some programmers who are really open and fast and bug-free, and they're like normal people who are you can communicate with, and they work normal hours, and they're not sociopathic, introverted, ADHD, Ritalin-laced people. And we're going to talk to them, and they're going to listen to our marketing input and create this great software, right? That's not at all how it is either, right? It's quite the contrary. So I think that's what it is, that you have to come to the realization that maybe making the product is the first 90%, and then marketing the product is the second 90%, and it adds up to 180%, not 100%. I mean, I think that's just the way it is. Yeah.
I'd just like to say it's been such an interesting conversation for me to have. I hope you found it interesting and stimulating and fascinating. I don't know if Guy did. He looked a little bit bored at times, but he seemed to make up for it. Thank you so much for coming along. The Three Beards operates for you, by you, is entirely powered by you. Kevin and Vicky, who now are completely in charge, and the rest of us who sit on the board basically just approve the great decisions they make. They need all of your help and need all of your support. If any of you in here happen to own a company or run a company or manage a client that could potentially sponsor looking after these sorts of events, it doesn't, we couldn't do this sort of stuff if Guy, as one of the questions came up, didn't ask for any money. The PwC didn't give us the venue and the food, and everything that you've paid for basically covers the cost of transport and getting people here. We don't make much money at all, and we have to pay for 2 people and a bunch of shit, and we've been doing this for a long time. It's the reality of life. So if any of you can ever help find us sponsorship, find us ways forward, find us money, find us speakers, find us spaces or anything to operate in, please do help us. Vicky and Kevin have taken the reins from us and are running completely blind, with almost zero guidance, because we don't know what we were doing when we were doing it. So us offering guidance and advice is literally completely meaningless. So help them, help each other. Thank you so much for listening. And again, to Guy, please.
Thank you.